Hello guys, welcome back. Today I'm welcoming you to another Android episode. Today I'll be teaching you all how to make a Shared Preferences RecyclerView which you might face in an Android exam in the future. So in a further lesson I'll teach you about Shared Preferences in more details, but for today I'll be teaching you all how to build a recycler view using shared preferences. Let's get started. First things first, I have created a new application called ReadyViva, and inside it you have to go to build Gradle app version, and we have to provide two implementations. These are the two implementations we need to provide for our application to have a recycler view and a JSON data. So I provided implementation for JSON, which is a data format API used in Android, and we have provided another implementation for the recycler view. Okay, first things first, let's make a new class called users for our recycler views model concept. Inside the users class, first thing, we'll declare a private static array list which will have the type of users, and this will be user list and will be equal to new array list like this. And next thing, I will have a private string ID for our user ID and private string name for a name and private string marks for marks like this. Next thing, I make a empty constructor for our users. We need this when we are making recycler views. And the next thing, I'll make another constructor, this time with, there's an easy way to do this. We'll say generate and say constructor, and we'll select all the fields from here and say OK like this. And next thing, we have to provide getters and setters for our ID, name and marks. For that, I say generate and getter and setters, and I select all four of these things and say enter. And as you can see, we have made the getters and setters for our application inside this class. First we have made the constructor, then array list getter and a setter, well, we'll call this setter set user array list, and inside this we say users and it will be a type of P. And next thing, we'll make users.userlist.add P like this. This is crucial for our work to get started. And Okay, this is our users class. Next thing, we'll have a new layout resource file called one underscore item underscore view like this, and we'll have this like this. We'll have its layout width as match parent, background color as #FFD700 for yellow, and layout margin as 12 dp and padding as 12 dp, and layout height wrap content like this. Next thing, let's have a text view. Its width will be wrap content and its layout height will be wrap content as well. We'll give this an ID. The ID will be user name. We'll close this from here, and inside this we'll give margin start as 50 dp, and we'll give margin top as 10 dp. Next thing, we'll give this a text. The text will be user name like this. And the next thing, I'll give this a text color. The text color will be #FF4500 like this. I'll have 3 text views like this. I'll copy this from here and paste it twice more, and the second one's name will be user ID, and it will have the text of user ID like this, and the next one will text view will be user marks like this. And next thing, we'll have constraint start to end of, and we'll provide the ID, user ID for this. That's one down. And next thing, we'll have a constraint top and top of as parent like this, and the error went away. And next thing, in the user ID, we'll have a constraint start to start off as ID, start off as parent like this. And the next thing, the constraint for top of top as parent also. Okay, next thing, in the user marks, I'll have the constraint start to end of as, I'll provide the ID, user name like this. Then I'll have the constraint to top and top of as parent like this. Now we have made the layout for the component viewer for the recycler view, and is this. Now what I did was I made a new activity called my main and made an XML file for it called my main like this. So now let's build our my main XML file before going to the activity. Here first thing we'll have a button and its width will be 0 dp and height will be wrap content, and next thing I'll give id as id geo, and I'll have margin right as 40 dp and margin left as 40 dp as well, and margin top as 80 dp, margin top as 8 dp actually, and I'll give this a text called go. Next thing I'll give a background int as #ff 4500 to make this red, and I'll close this for now. And next thing I'll make another button out of this. I'll copy this and paste it, and inside the button I'll give this the ID as save button like this, and the text will change to save, and the color will be #ff D700. And next thing I'll make some edit text, and the width will be match parent and the height will be wrap content as well. And next thing I'll give a margin top as 20 dp for this text view, edit text, and EM will be 10, and next thing margin left will be 40 dp and margin right will be also 40 dp, and I'll have a hint that says ID here, and I'll give the input type as text person name like this, and I'll close this from here, and I'll copy this and paste it twice like this. And the next thing, in the next edit text, I say name here, and the next one will be marks here. Alright. Now we'll adjust our text views, edit text. First thing, let's give these IDs. The first edit text will be of the ID user ID. user id txt, and the next one's id will be username txt, like this. And the next one's id will be id user marks underscore txt, like this. We remove the margin top from this edit text and the next one also. And now let's give these some. And next let's give these some constraints. For the first button, constraint end to end of will be parent, and the next thing, constraint horizontal bias will be 0.0, and constraint start to start of will be parent as well. And the next thing, constraint top to bottom of will be our id save button, like this. Now that button is covered. The next thing, we'll go to save button, and the constraint to end and end of will be parent, and we'll give you the constraint horizontal bias like this, which is 0.0, and we'll have constraint start to start of as parent as well. And next thing, we say constraint top to bottom of will be id user marks text, like this. Next, we'll have the constraint for the edit text. Constraint end to end of will be parent for the id text. Then the constraint start to start of will be parent as well, and the constraint for top to top of will be parent as well. Let's go to the next edit text. Here the constraint for end to end of will be parent, and constraint for start to start of will be parent as well, and constraint top to bottom of will be id user id text. Next, we'll go to the last edit text. Here constraint end to end of will be parent, and constraint start to start of will be parent as well, and constraint top to bottom of will be id username text, like this. Okay, so this is our my main XML file, where we have the ID name and marks edit text to provide the ID name and marks, and we have a button called save and a button called go. Now we'll go to my main activity, and here first thing we'll make a private array list of type users, and we'll call this user underscore list. And next thing we'll have a private static final string called sp key, which will be equal to user underscore list underscore sp, like this. This will be the ID for the shared preferences to now identify the shared preference that we are gonna use next. So here we'll have private shared preferences called shared preferences, and next thing we'll have a private button save and go, and next thing we'll have some private edit text of ID, name and marks, like this. Next, inside the activity main we'll have our shared preferences equal to preference manager dot get default share preferences, and we'll pass this inside of it. And next thing, the user list will be equal to new array list, and save will be equal to find view by id r.id. Save button. Likewise we'll do for the go. We'll say find view by id r.id.go, and next thing the id will be find view by id r.id.user id text, and name will be equal to find view by id r.id.user name txt, and the marks will be equal to find view by id r.id.user marks text, like this. Next thing we'll have our save dot set on click listener. This will be the on click listener for the save button that we made earlier for this, and here we pass a new view.onClick listener, and inside it we'll give this as view v. And next thing, I'll have an if condition that checks if id.getText.toString.isEmpty and not name.getText.toString.isEmpty and not marks.getText.toString.isEmpty, and we'll have this like this. .toString, like this. And next, inside of this we'll say user list dot add, and we'll add our new users. Here we'll say id dot get text dot toString, and next thing name dot get text dot toString and marks.getText.toString like this. We'll close it here, and next thing we'll declare a JSON. We'll say JSON equals to new JSON, and next thing we'll have a string JSON string equal to JSON dot toJSON, and we'll provide our user list array inside of this. What this does is the JSON will contain the user list array list as a string called JSON string. Next thing we say shared preferences dot editor and call this editor and make it equal to shared preferences dot edit, and we say editor dot put string, and we'll give the SP key inside of this, and we'll pass the JSON string to it like this, and we say editor dot apply, and we'll finally clear our say clear. We have to make a clear method. Let's create a clear method in my main, and inside it we say id.setText will be null, and name.getSetText will be also null, and next thing marks.setText will be also null. Next thing, after the set on click listener, we say go.set on click listener and have new view.on click listener. This will be the go button, and inside it I'll say intent I equals new intent, and I'll say get application context as the context, and the intent in which I want to go will be the main activity dot class. So I have made a main activity class. Later on I'll show you how to code inside of it. For now you just remember that there's main activity dot class, and after this you say start activity and provide I to it like this. So that's it for the myMain.java activity. I'll code the next thing in the next video. So here we end the first session for the Shared Preferences RecyclerView, and I'll see you on the next video with another code example for the main activity and its layout XML file. So till then, goodbye guys, and please take care.